Have you ever noticed that the way these romantic ExoKitty scenes are shot like romantic moments in K-dramas? Or the way that this impromptu dance break is reminiscent of iconic American rom-coms? Or that Kitty breaking into a hospital room through matchmaking resembles the humorous scenarios we got from 2000's Disney Channel shows? To prepare for ExoKitty Season 3 coming out, I rewatched the last two seasons, as one would of course, and I remember being halfway through the first episode of Season 1 and being like, this is so ridiculous. And then I kept watching, and next thing you know, Season 3 comes out and I binge it in one sitting. The show is so crazy, but the craziness also works, and that's what draws us in. One way they achieve that craziness is by meshing a lot of different tropes and genres together. It's an unserious show that knows it's unserious, and what better way to be unserious than meshing things that don't usually go together? So, as a serial K-drama watcher who lives on Romcom and grew up on 2000 Disney Channel shows, ExoKitty combines all of that and uses them in surprising ways, making it work for the show. Let's take a deep dive into the K-drama first and see how ExoKitty uses its trope and style. One of the most popular tropes in K-drama is the rich guy falling for the poor girl narrative. It's a tale as old as time, and we also see that in romances in general, but it's a really big thing in K-dramas, to the point that a K-drama with that narrative is making fun of its own trope.
저딴 드라마 싹 다 망해버려야 돼. 없는 집 딸하고, 재벌집 아들하고 말도 안 되는 러브 스토리? 아우, 현실성 1도 없어.
ExoKitty uses this trope and puts their twists in it, making it unexpected and at the same time amusing. Let's talk about Dae and Yuri. Yes, I know they're not a couple and never will be, but their roles and their dynamic is taken straight out of the rich guy, poor girl narrative. Or in this case, rich girl, poor guy. Both of their characters are giving straight up K-drama. Yuri is from a chaebol family, a rich conglomerate family, where it is a strict household and the relationship there are quite strained. It's something that we see quite often in these rich guy, poor girl narratives. There's always the mom that cares more, but is still under the thumb of her husband, the husband/father who is strict, expects the best, but only cares for his empire, and the son/daughter who ends up feeling trapped. Dae, on the other hand, is from a poor family, where money is the core issue for the character. Along with this, his father works for the chaebol family, another trope that we see quite often. The parallels don't just stop there with their character backgrounds. Dae and Yuri also end up in a fake relationship because Yuri needs to hide her real relationship from her parents. But then the fake relationship becomes bigger when it is used by Yuri's parents for publicity. Fake or forced relationships for the sake of the conglomerate family is something K-drama watchers will be all too familiar with. In another K-drama world, the story would be about them. But no. Yuri is into girls and makes Kitty, who has been in a relationship with Dae for years, fall for her. But they are not endgame, and Dae and Kitty also end up breaking up. That is how ExoKitty uses this trope and turns it upside down. And it's definitely unique, and for K-drama watchers who see these parallels, it's funny how they're being used in surprising ways. It's like mixing the traditional convention with newer modern takes. Speaking of the rich guy, poor girl narrative, we cannot not talk about Kitty and Minho, because their relationship dynamic also takes some inspiration from the trope. Like with Dae and Yuri, Minho is also based on a K-drama archetype. It is the rich boy who everyone fawns over and who is very confident about himself, aka the flower boy. If you're unfamiliar with the flower boy, it's basically like the pretty boy. There's a little bit more to that, and it was a really big thing in K-dramas in the 2010s. The drama that popularized it was a drama released in 2009 called Boys Over Flowers, where this intro and the four guys there, also called the F4 or the Flower 4, are still talked about today. And did this intro not remind you of Minho's intro in ExoKitty? Minho was definitely inspired by these characters, and coincidentally, personally I don't think it's a coincidence, but coincidentally, the actor who plays the main character of the F4, his name is Minho, And he also plays this rich guy. Anyways, moving on to Kitty, she's not exactly the poor girl, but she does represent the commoner because she does live in a different world than Minho, and this was exemplified in season 3. In K-drama cliches, everyone is familiar with the rich parent disapproving of the poor girl that the son fell in love with and then offering her money to break up with the son. In season 3, we get this little scene of Minho's dad trying to push Kitty away because she doesn't understand his world.
Look, I know you mean well, but you're trying to fit in a world that you don't understand. And right now, Minho needs to do damage control for Eunice and not be distracted by you.
There's no breakup money, but the sentiment is the same, and this moment was definitely inspired by the K-drama versions. Obviously, they twist this trope too, because luckily this doesn't cause a huge problem like it normally does. Instead, Kitty runs off, but Minho catches up to her and they share their first kiss. Talking about romances, we have to talk about the iconic K-drama slow motion scenes. We are all familiar with the slow motion. The repeated action, the multiple different angles and views of a kiss, and the music that starts that I can't play, but hopefully you guys can imagine. The romantic moments in ExoKitty are all stylized in this K-drama way. We get Minho dressed up for prom and Kitty being struck, and it all panning out in slow motion, taking inspiration from K-drama scenes like this one. We get the infamous K-drama slow motion fall and romantic catch when Kitty falls on Day accidentally when they are hiking. And of course, we get the emphasis on the action by letting us see Kitty hug Day multiple times. And when Kitty and Minho get together in season 3, they pull out all the K-drama woman stops. We get the K-drama kiss and the K-drama fall. And for smaller cliches, we get the giving you my blazer moment, the picking a flower petal that fell on you moment, and the view is pretty moment.
예쁘네요.
They're like referencing all these romantic K-drama tropes and putting them like Easter eggs, which is really fun. At the same time, they take those tropes and put their own spin on them, making it unexpected and new to us. It draws us in more and more because we don't know what will happen next. They go even a step further than this because romantic K-drama tropes are not the only thing they take inspiration from. We get bits and pieces of the revenge, crime/legal K-dramas. This enhances the randomness and the unseriousness that is ExoKitty. In the crime, legal, or seeking revenge K-dramas, the chaebols or the conglomerates are most of the time not good people. They're usually the villain and are very corrupt. Yuri's family, being the chaebols of the show, are not really the villains of the story, but they do have a side story where Yuri's father was shown mistreating employees. And by the end of season 2, it bites him back because there's a major lawsuit against him and all his assets get frozen.
Your father's assets were frozen after a development in a class action lawsuit.
It's a story that actually exists just to be a catalyst for Yuri to become poor and pursue her fashion career, and for Dae's father to open a restaurant. It's funny how a dark plot like that is used in ExoKitty and spun around to be positive for the main characters. They had a chaebol family and they could have done anything with them, and they chose the K-drama route of having them be corrupt and then them being served justice. But obviously they put a positive spin on it. Talking about dark plots, a big storyline for crime, thriller, tragedy K-dramas is the revenge plot and the secret identity. It's always the character who has been wronged in some way in the past and is now seeking revenge. Whether it would be seeking revenge against your bullies from the past, seeking revenge against the people who wrongfully murdered your mother, or seeking revenge against your husband and best friend because they had an affair and killed you. Family secrets or hidden family connections are also a big thing. Whether it was the main character realizing the lawyer that has been around him is actually his long-lost brother that he thought was dead, a vengeful character who murdered people finding out that the main character is his brother and that he didn't die like he thought, and the main character being the long-lost daughter of someone who believed she died a long time ago. The revenge plots and the secret identity plots are quite popular, and they are, in a very PG version, also used in ExoKitty. For the revenge plot, we are introduced to Stella in Season 2, who gets together with Minho. However, it turns out that her real name is Esther, and she got close to Minho just to take his father's empire down, because years prior, Minho's father embarrassed Stella when she auditioned for a show. For the family secrets, in Season 1, Kitty finds out that her mother might have had a long-lost son. However, it turns out Alex is not the son of Kitty's mother, but rather Yuri's mother. And then in Season 2, Kitty finds out that there's a whole secret side of her family that she didn't know about, and she ends up reconnecting with them. It's funny how it's a rom-com show at its core, but they have these plots intertwined that are darker, and they put a very PG, lighthearted, positive spin on them to match the tone. By having these darker K-drama tropes, or at least being inspired by darker K-drama tropes, it makes it very unexpected and random. And for that reason, it works for an unserious show like this. I mean, who would think about putting a revenge plot in a cute romance? And talking about cute romances, let's talk about the American rom-com tropes that are used in ExoKitty. With the romance aspects of the K-drama, ExoKitty also blends in American rom-com tropes and puts their own twist in them. We get the forced proximity of Kitty being assigned the exact same dorm room that Q, Day, and Minho are in. It's there to bring Kitty closer to the guys, especially Day, because they both want their relationship to work out. That's what we are supposed to think, but personally, I believe that the forced proximity was not for Day and Kitty, but rather for Kitty and Minho. This is where Minho realizes his feelings for Kitty, and even though he got rejected the first time, I think without this forced proximity, Kitty wouldn't have known Minho as well as she did. So this accidental dorm room arrangement was definitely a catalyst for the endgame, even though we might have not known it at first with the misdirect of Day and then Yuri. Speaking of Day and Yuri, ExoKitty also does something to the traditional love triangle. It turned it into a quad, which is so random but so perfect for the show. I remember being so surprised that within 5 seconds, they turned the narrative around in Season 1 and made Kitty fall for Yuri. Not surprised that Kitty is into girls, but the fact that the mean girl turned into a love interest. I mean, talking about twist and randomness, right? And it is because of this that makes ExoKitty the unique show that it is. The randomness continues with this dance break of Yuri when they were all in a club. Watching this, you just ask, what is going on? And then you realize that they're referencing other movies, other rom-coms, and then the show kind of starts to make sense. And to go along with this American rom-com reference, we get the airport scene, but for a breakup, and the proposals. Of course, they also reference the rom-com that birthed ExoKitty. We get the fake relationship, like I mentioned before. Then we get the famous track scene and the hot tub scene. Like with the K-drama, they take these rom-com tropes and use them in very surprising and unexpected ways. And they mesh them together to create a blend that only ExoKitty can do. And the blending doesn't stop there, as I think ExoKitty learned a thing or two from 2000 Disney Channel shows. Or at least the comedic structures and the vibes are very Disney show coded. I watched a couple of episodes of Hannah Montana recently because why not? And in one of the episodes, Miley's dad failed to register her for the first semester of her senior year in high school, which meant that she couldn't attend. She tries to find ways to go to school, but all of them fail. And then when she finally accepts defeat, the president shows up at her door and tells her that she's enrolled again. That was so ridiculous and random, but that's what made it funny. And I realized that's kind of the same way that ExoKitty approaches their comedy and their randomness. In Season 1, Kitty finds a baby band among her mother's things and then tries to enter a hospital's record room to find out more about it. First of all, wanting to break and enter in a country that she just entered and is not very familiar with is a very bold choice, and like everything else in the show, crazy and random. But then what makes this even more ridiculous is that she gets through the locked door of the records room through matchmaking. I feel like this gave off the same vibes as the president solving Miley's problem in Hannah Montana. It's like, what is going on? And I think that's exactly what the creators of ExoKitty probably wanted the reaction of the audience to be. ExoKitty is just funny scenario after funny scenario, exactly what the Disney shows drive on. We get Kitty seeing Day not wanting to hold Yuri's hand and immediately clocking that it's a fake relationship.
That's a fake relationship.
Then we get Kitty almost being hit by a car and then asking the passengers for a ride.
Can I get a ride?
And then Kitty jumping to conclusions again and thinking that the long lost son is the random teacher that she just met, where the only two common things between the teacher and the long lost son is the age range and the fact that they were adopted by Australians.
Adopted by Australians? 29-ish?
I mean, it did turn out to be him, but that's not the point. It's just how sudden everything was. The story moves from A to B to C really fast and with no depth at all. Stuff just happens to move the story along, and by doing it this way, you get things moving in very sudden ways, and that allows them to throw anything at the audience. If this was any other show, it would be considered a bad thing, but for ExoKitty, that's just what ExoKitty does, and it works for them. Along the romance, we literally went from a family secret that led to a long lost son to a revenge plot with the school turning into a performative art school with a K-pop competition, to a whole hidden family, and then a lawsuit, and then a celebrity side plot, a pregnancy, and then everything concluding with a fashion show. The show rides on Kitty being the chaos queen, so why shouldn't the show be chaotic as well? It's the chaos queen with her chaotic show, and I think that's the reason why we keep watching. At this point, they can throw anything at us, and it wouldn't feel weird because that's just what the show is. Giving us the unexpected at every turn and giving us cute romances to ship. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.